So over the course of the last, 18, 19 months of doing this podcast, there's been some episodes that are focused on business owners, some episodes that are focused on residents. This one's kind of a half and half. Welcome to Randy Hatch. How are you?
Great, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And there's a lot of things we're going to get into, and people will fully understand exactly why we're having this conversation as the conversation evolves. But you are the owner and operator of RJ Hatch Electrical Contracting. Did I say that right?
You did. It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, no, it's good. But for those of you who are residents of Westwood, you probably are familiar with Randy's house, because as we approach the holiday season, Randy's house is one of those go-to houses that you have to drive by because it is lit up to the hilt. And it made all the sense in the world, Randy, when I found out that you were an electrician, because it probably takes an electrician to do that. So I'm going to ask you about your business. I'm going to ask you about your association with Lessons from Leaders last year. But I want to start with asking you about how this all started, because as the holidays approach, you're already, I see, we're Halloween recording this right now. I see some lights already up there on the house. So how did this all get going, and where's your passion for this?
It started back at my mom's house about 1983. We outlined it, and it just kept growing from there. So, and then I finally got my own house that gave me the freedom to buy everything that Home Depot sold. So
now, when I see houses like yours, and there's some others around town who do similar things for different holidays. Like there are people who really get into Halloween, and you drive through the neighborhood and you can see all kinds of Halloween decorations. So my question always is, where do they put that stuff when they're not using it?
Well, believe it or not, I did do Halloween until one year a group of kids came through and destroyed everything I had. It was all up and down Briar Lane. So I decided against doing Halloween anymore.
So back to the question of where you put it, like when it's not being
every
used,
nook and cranny I have.
pretty much you just jam it in. Do you know how many lights you have when it's all said and done?
It's somewhere around 75,000.
That is
give or take
crazy. What's the feedback you get? Because number one, cars slow down, but generally speaking, I want to hear firsthand what people tell you about their experience.
Tonight is actually the big feedback night, because the little kids that come by, they're like, "Mr. Hatch, are you putting the lights up again?" And then when they see it already started, they're like, "We can't wait to come by." And we have many people coming by, during the process, asking if it's going to be lit up that night, even though it's not completed. So,
but you consistently add stuff too, because even I, who've been here for 10 years, I make sure I drive down Briar Lane and check out your house. And there are things every year you seem to add to the mix. So is it, it's kind of a hobby where, almost like a trading card collector, you're adding to the collection every year. Is there like a little secret society of people who know like what the hot thing is that year?
More what I have in stock and what I can make work and what has failed and I have to replace and update. Like this year I have to have a new Santa Claus because my old Santa Claus kind of have to retire him. He's not looking so good anymore.
All right. So a new Santa is going to be on the property this winter. It is at a point, I would guess, dangerous, because you do go all the way up to the roof. Explain to me how that process works.
I have a nice young gentleman who works for me with great knees, and he's not afraid of heights.
That's the way to do it. So, the power of delegation, for sure. Well, I look forward to it. Is there anything you want to tease about this year? Anything that you've picked up or purchased that people should be looking forward to? This is your opportunity to sell your display, Randy.
I kind of like to keep it a little secret until we actually light it.
Okay. So, and when do we go live?
Might be a little early because Thanksgiving is late this year. So my hope is the third week in November.
Wow. Fantastic.
So, give or take a day or two, depending on weather.
It's a lot of fun. All right, here's how the dots were connected. So last year, 2023, we launched the Westwood Living Lessons from Leaders program. I was looking for experts in specific categories who could lend their expertise and make themselves available to the kids at Westwood High School. Didn't have an electrician on the roster, so I was kind of going through the local yellow pages and whatnot, or the equivalent of here in 2023, and I saw this RJ Hatch business. And I was like, I'm going to call that guy. He's a Westwood guy. I didn't put two and two together at the time that this was your house, right? And so when we did connect those dots, I said, yeah, it does make sense. So how long have you been in the electrician business?
I've been in it since I'm 19 years old.
Really?
So, yeah. I incorporated though in 96.
So do you ever run into things now that you look at and you're like, wow, this was probably installed when I was 19 years old?
I've looked at some of my old installations and said, why did I do it this way?
But all of us get better with time, right? And you're going to make mistakes today that you'll never make 5 years from now. But what are the main highlights of how things have changed electrically that you always need to stay on top of?
Computers. Technology has taken over the industry. And I'm a little bit behind on that. So just what you can do with the iPhone and programming, just even switches and outlets remotely, it's tremendous. So
generally speaking, what's the number one thing people call you for? Is it an update of their system to something more modern? Is it a fix? Oh my gosh, we got a problem and the switch isn't working. What's generally the most popular
it's usually
call?
twofold. It's because of car chargers becoming so popular.
Okay.
So we need to upgrade the whole electrical system to accommodate a car charger. That's a big thing. And just the everyday, my light switch doesn't work. So we need to get over there right away. As a matter of fact, today I just had to fix 2 lights for some lady who was concerned about Halloween tonight because her lights weren't working.
You got to get such a thrill out of just helping your neighbors, because I'm sure much of your business is in the neighborhoods of Westwood. So when you have that level of expertise that other people are clueless about, myself included, how empowering is that for you?
It's very good. And that's the best thing about the industry. You don't know what you're doing day to day. You don't know who you're going to meet, what the problem is going to be, what you're going to have to do to resolve the problem. It's tremendous. That's the best thing.
And a large part of it, you just referenced it, is staying up to date and keeping yourself educated and understanding the technology of 2024. And you said you're a little behind in that regard, but I'm sure every day you're always learning. Is that part of the industry that you really
Every
love?
single day. And most of the supply houses I deal with have technology courses you can take after the day is done. They'll update you on new switching, new lighting, or whatever it may be. So
Go ahead.
No, and LEDs have taken over the industry.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the LEDs on my Christmas lights, I would have to power up a new generator because it commands so much power.
Yeah, when you think about LEDs, even Fenway Park is lit with
Oh, it's
LED
tremendous
lights.
the way they can turn the color and turn them off on a home run and on immediately. That was never possible.
Never possible, because the lights always had to ramp up. But give me, from a technical standpoint, why that is. Tell me about LED lights and how they work and why they operate differently.
First, low power consumption. They basically take nothing compared to what we used to have. And the diode in there is immediately lit. As soon as you give it power, it comes up to full brightness due to the transformer that's built into it as well. And you can also color change. So you buy a fixture, you can change light output and color of it with a couple of toggle switches.
Amazing. So it's transformed the world, but it's also transformed your display here on Briar Lane. So last year you did sign up, and thank you for your support of the Lessons from Leaders program. You came to one of our events. You did interact with kids. One of the things you said to me is we need to get more young kids aware of this industry and how it could be beneficial to them as a career. That seems to be part of the challenge generationally. Guys like you who've been doing it for so many years, trying to get new recruits into the business. So what's your pitch to a young kid, and how do you try to engage them to get them interested in what you're doing, not just technologically, but also as a possible career for them?
That night that I was so graciously invited to, the biggest thing I hopped on was the money that can be made. A journeyman electrician approaches $100,000 a year, pretty much right out of the gate. So that being said, you don't incur any college costs. You're working right away. You're immediately making at least 50 to start. So that seemed to pique the kids' interest. And then 2 of them came back. I got a call from one.
Oh, great.
But 2 of them came back, but then that kind of fizzled right out again. I don't think his parents were too thrilled that to get into this type of industry. But it was good to see a little, and also from some girls as well, actually more girls than boys that day. So that was very exciting because I have 7 sisters.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so
Oh my God.
I'm kind of girl oriented.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing when I see that. So
What type of opportunities does your company or other companies like yours make available to kids? And are you working primarily with, the trade schools who are already training these kids? How do you try to recruit the next generation?
the trade schools are great. I actually have one young gentleman right now that came from Blue Hills. He's tremendous. They do a great job at training them. So he comes with me every other week, and it's just tremendous. Just the basic knowledge. He still needs a lot in the field, but the basic things I don't need to go over.
That's great.
So that's a helpful thing.
You said you started when you were 19 years old. So does that mean you went right into it? You didn't go to college yourself?
I did not. No.
Okay. So let's talk about that experience. I won't date you, but when you graduated, how normal was it for somebody not to go to college and to pursue a job right out of high school?
Where I grew up, everybody pretty much got into a trade, or nobody went to college. There's very few kids that went to college. So I immediately figured that's where my father had 2 gas stations when I was growing up. I figured I was going to be a car mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
But then I quickly realized you needed $1 million worth of tools to make $20 an hour. So being an electrician, apply a screwdriver, set of testers, and the world is yours. So
I love it. I think it's a great option for kids who are good with their hands, kids who can think in a different way intuitively. You know, they can understand the way systems work. Were you kind of like that? Were you a person who was, well, you said you worked at the
Yes.
garage, so were you always kind of good with your
you
hands?
love
guy?
to play with everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Were you
Yeah.
good with Legos? Like, does it go back
Legos,
to when you were a
well,
kid?
with the little log cabin,
Oh, yeah.
you know, which I cannot remember for the life of me, what the name of that toy was. But anyways, yes.
Lincoln Logs.
Lincoln Logs.
That's it.
Yes,
I had Lincoln Logs.
Yeah. So that was a great thing to be able to build that.
So if you're a parent who's listening to this and you have a kid and you're wondering, what's the next step for that kid, I would highly encourage that you have your child or even yourself reach out to somebody in the trades, whether it's Randy who's an electrician or whether it's somebody who's a plumber or somebody who's a contractor, really, involved in construction. There is no age that's too early for a kid to just at least shadow, right? Just go around for a
Absolutely.
day and see what it's like, see what the business is. Now, you're probably on call a lot. I mean, you probably get calls. I'm sure at some point in your life you were sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner and you got the phone ringing and somebody needed your help, right?
Being my own business, I don't have an off time.
Yeah, but you do, in essence, control your schedule that you're not going 9 to 5 Monday to Friday unless you're fully booked. Right. So you can control when you hope to have a day off, but there will always be emergencies.
There's always something.
But that's why there's a premium on the price, right? That's why there's an opportunity for a career because you are so specialized in your knowledge that you bring that level of expertise to everything you do. You're a valuable resource.
It's a great asset,
to have, right?
And that leads me back to the other thing. You never know what's going to happen day to day. So I could get a call. I had a great one the other day. A doctor's office I take care of, their emergency power backup failed in the middle of an operation. So that was drop everything and get over there and see what's going on. And that turned into a great little project to update everything.
Can you describe, I'm sure you remember, your biggest challenge? You looked at something, you're like, oh, wow, this is going to be something.
Heights. I'm not big on heights anymore. So we have a parking lot that's coming up, and we probably need a 60 to an 80-foot lift to get up there. And I'm not very thrilled.
And I'm sure is that you're going around the whole thing, so it's you're up high for a long time. It's
not
just like you're shooting up for.
No, you're up there
minutes.
for a couple hours.
Oh yeah, I can understand if you're not a heights guy why that might bother you. Oh, that's crazy.
But other than that, I mean, we've had a lot of opportunities with live power. Whatever. Some of that can shake you up a bit.
Now, one of the other connections here with Randy, which was fun for me, is that you knew me from TV. Right. So
yes.
I'm looking over here in this room and it makes all the sense in the world. You're a sports fan. I mean, your wall is littered with Boston sports jerseys. You have Phil Esposito. You got Ray Bork up there. Who else you got hanging on the wall?
Tim Wakefield, of course.
Yep.
Koji was my favorite pitcher with that crazy pitch that he had. I actually have a fully signed 2003 or 4 football helmet with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in his printing.
Yeah, hang on to that.
Yeah, and also a Michael Jordan jersey.
Really?
An original, game worn.
Bulls or Carolina?
Bulls.
Wow. Yeah, so you got your little museum over there, and that room looks sweet. And it's funny because you're like, I told you I watched you, so that's where you used to watch the Sports Update, huh?
Yeah. It was a great thing, Sunday nights. So
well, listen,
I'm going to miss it.
I will still watch Butch because I still love Butch, but I do miss being involved day to day in the sports world. But I got to be honest with you, Randy, I really do like this better. I think
seems like a lot of fun.
Getting to meet people like you across so many different industries. I've learned more than I ever would have learned had this not happened in my life. And you really feel like you're helping people, even if no one's heard of you and they listen to this podcast, like, he sounds like a nice guy. You're like, it may be another phone call. It
right.
may
You
be
never know.
A new business. And you're doing the right thing by just sort of branching out. And for me, it's the perfect time because to be able to, no pun intended, shed some light.
Literally.
on this great display. And again, I'll wrap it up this way. If you have not driven down Briar Lane here in Westwood during the holiday season, you got to check it out because you're going to drive by like 3 miles an hour. Just slow down. You may even want to stop in front of the house because there's always something new. There's always something different. But it's, to me, one of the signatures of town. And I hope you feel that when you get that type of feedback.
No, there's nothing better for me than coming home at 4 o'clock and my lights are on. So it's better than green grass. So
we all have our passions, and obviously lighting is Randy Hatch's passion. So I appreciate you joining me here. Thanks for letting us tell your story, not only on the podcast, but also in the December issue of Westwood Living, and can't wait to see it when it goes up. I'll be here probably Thanksgiving weekend and check it out.
Couldn't wait.
That is Randy Hatch from RJ Hatch Electrical Contracting. That's the official name of the business. And as always, if you've got someone else you'd like me to have a conversation with, just reach out, send me an email, tleiden@bestversionmedia.com. I'll find that person, have a conversation with him or her, record it, and then share it with you right here on the podcast network. But for now, from Randy's dining room table on this Halloween afternoon, this is Tom Leyden saying so long and thanks for listening.